Let me take you right into the heart of what is happening at Arsenal Football Club right now, because the situation at the Emirates Stadium is one of the most fascinating stories in European football at this moment. On Saturday, Arsenal walked onto the pitch against Fulham and produced a performance that sent a very clear message to everyone watching. A 3-0 victory. Clinical, controlled, dominant. But what made that result so significant was not just the scoreline. It was what it revealed about the depth, the ambition, and the sheer quality of this Arsenal squad heading into the most important week of their entire season. Bukayo Saka, who had been missing with a difficult Achilles problem, returned to the starting lineup for the first time in weeks. He did not ease himself back gently. He registered a goal and an assist in just 45 minutes of football. 45 minutes. That tells you everything about the level this man operates at. Meanwhile, Viktor Gyokeres continued his extraordinary form in front of goal by scoring twice against Fulham, taking his personal tally to 21 goals in all competitions this season. And then there is young Myles Lewis-Skelly, 19 years old, given a rare start, used in a central midfield role for the very first time under Mika Arteta. And he delivered what can only be described as a top-level performance that had everyone talking. But before I go deeper into all of that, I need to address the bigger picture. Because Arsenal are not just chasing domestic glory right now. They are 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. They have a Champions League semi-final second leg against Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. And at the same time, clubs across Europe are beginning their summer planning, with players connected to Arsenal appearing in transfer conversations at the highest level. This is a club operating on multiple fronts simultaneously, and the evidence suggests they are handling it with remarkable focus. Now, let me be very clear about what is at stake here, because this is not a moment for understatement. Arsenal have a maximum of 5 matches remaining this season. 5 matches that could end with this club achieving something genuinely historic. The Premier League title and a place in the Champions League final are both within reach. And that combination, if achieved, would represent a level of success that this generation of Arsenal fans has been waiting many years to experience. The situation is this. Manchester City are 6 points behind Arsenal in the league table. However, City have 2 games in hand. That means nothing is mathematically settled. Nothing is guaranteed. Arsenal know that every point in their remaining 3 league matches is critical. And the fact that all 3 of those league matches are played in London works in their favour. They travel to West Ham, then host Burnley, and finish the league season away at Crystal Palace. But the Champions League picture adds another layer of complexity entirely. Atletico Madrid visited the Emirates in the second leg of a semi-final tie. The first leg was played at Atletico's Metropolitano Stadium, and by the way Ricardo Calafiori spoke about that atmosphere, it was clearly a thunderous and intense occasion. Now, Arsenal must use their home crowd, their home energy, and the quality of their squad to get the result they need. If you want deeper analysis on stories like this, stories about a club fighting on every front at the same time, then hit that subscribe button right now. On this channel, we go beyond the headlines and we look at what the facts actually tell us. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. Because what is happening at Arsenal right now is not just exciting. It is historically significant. And you need to be here for every moment of it. Saka returns, and he is not done yet. Let us start with Bukayo Saka, because his return against Fulham was one of the most important moments of Arsenal's season. The situation is that Saka had been dealing with a problematic Achilles injury that kept him out of the starting lineup. When a player of his importance misses time with that kind of issue, there is always a degree of caution. There are questions about whether he will return to his best level quickly, or whether the club needs to manage him carefully through the remaining weeks. What happened against Fulham answered those questions in the most direct way possible. A goal, an assist, in 45 minutes. That is not the return of a player who is still finding his rhythm. That is the return of a man who is operating close to his absolute ceiling. Now, Ricardo Calafiori, who played alongside Saka on Saturday and who clearly watches him closely in training every single day, made a comment after the match that I think is the most important thing said by any Arsenal player this week. He said, and I want you to hear this clearly, that even after what Saka did against Fulham, he still feels Saka needs to find his form back again. Think about that for a moment. A goal and an assist in a 45-minute cameo. Is Saka not yet at his best form, according to one of his own teammates? That is the level of expectation that exists around this player. And more importantly, it is the level of quality that Atletico Madrid and anyone else in Arsenal's path must now prepare to face. Calafiori also confirmed his belief that Saka is one of Arsenal's best players and will help the club enormously in the matches ahead. That is not a vague compliment. That is a direct statement from a man who sees him every day and has complete confidence in what Saka can produce at the highest level. Viktor Gyokeres, the record breaker. Now let us talk about Viktor Gyokeres, because what he has done this season deserves its own dedicated conversation. 21 goals in all competitions. That is his tally now after scoring twice against Fulham. But the number alone does not capture the full significance of what he has achieved. The situation is that Gyokeres has become the first Arsenal player to reach 20 goals in a single season since Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang did it in the 2019 to 2020 campaign. That is a gap of 6 years. 6 years without any Arsenal striker reaching that landmark. And Gyokeres has done it in his debut season at the club. For a striker joining a new club, a new league, a new country, and a new style of play, that is a remarkable achievement. There is always a period of adjustment. There is always a settling in phase. Gyokeres appears to have skipped through that phase entirely and gone straight to elite-level production. Ricardo Calafiori offered a fascinating insight into how Gyokeres affects Arsenal as a team. He explained that even when Gyokeres does not touch the ball, his presence changes the entire game. That is the mark of a truly elite centre-forward. His movement, his threat, his positioning, all of it forces opposing defenders to make different decisions. And those different decisions create space for players like Saka, Leandro Trossard, and Eberechi Eze to operate in. Calafiori also acknowledged that Gyokeres has faced criticism during his debut campaign. The reality for the club is that no striker who joins a new team at this level escapes scrutiny entirely. There will be moments where the goals dry up or the performance does not meet expectations. But what Calafiori made clear is that the squad believes in him completely. And the evidence on the pitch, 21 goals in all competitions, supports that belief without question. The Italian defender added something else that I think is equally important. He said that Gyokeres is on a good level right now, but can still do even more. Again, there is that pattern. An Arsenal player producing exceptional numbers and an Arsenal teammate saying publicly that there is still more to come. That combination of current excellence and future upside is what makes this Arsenal squad genuinely frightening for any opponent. Myles Lewis-Skelly, a star in the making. This is the part of the story that I find most compelling from a football analysis perspective, because what happened with Myles Lewis-Skelly against Fulham tells us something very important about Mikel Arteta and about the future direction of this Arsenal squad. Lewis-Skelly is 19 years old. He has had an outstanding breakthrough campaign. But the situation is that he has found regular game time difficult to come by this season, with the left-back position shared between Ricardo Calafiori and Piero Hincapié. Against Fulham, Arteta made a deliberate and calculated decision. He gave Lewis-Skelly a start, but not at left-back. He played him in central midfield, a position Lewis-Skelly has never been used in under Arteta before. That is a significant managerial decision. It carries risk. A 19-year-old playing out of a position he has rarely featured in for the first team against a Premier League side in the week before a Champions League semi-final. And Lewis-Skelly delivered. The performance was not adequate. It was not solid. It was, according to former Premier League striker Darren Bent, a top-level performance. Arteta himself described it as incredible, saying that Lewis-Skelly stepped up and showed exactly what he has been demonstrating in training every single day. Let me give you the analytical picture here. Arteta wanted energy and freshness in midfield against Fulham. He needed to rest key players ahead of Tuesday's Atletico match. But the way Lewis-Skelly performed means Arteta now has information he did not have before. He now knows, with certainty built on a real match at a real level, that Lewis-Skelly can function in central midfield at this standard. Darren Bent broke down what Lewis-Skelly did well in specific terms. He highlighted the fact that Lewis-Skelly consistently moved the ball forward. He passed it forward. He broke lines. He did not take the easy option and play backwards. Bent pointed out that one of Arsenal's challenges in recent weeks has been players passing the ball backwards under pressure, which allows the opposition to reset their defensive shape and makes it much harder for Arsenal to break through. Lewis-Skelly did the opposite. He received the ball and immediately looked to play forward. He found Saka. He found Eze. He found Trossard. He won the ball back. He controlled his defensive responsibilities. And he did all of that in a role he had never played for the first team before. Now, the question everyone is asking is whether he will start against Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. Darren Bent was direct about this. His view is that Lewis-Skelly will likely be dropped back to the bench for the Atletico match, with Martin Zubimendi returning to the central midfield role he has occupied for most of the season. Bent acknowledged that Zubimendi has been outstanding this season overall, even if his form has dipped slightly in recent weeks. The reality for the selection decision is that Zubimendi is the more senior and experienced option in that position, and Arteta is likely to revert to his established lineup for a match of that magnitude. But Bent was also very clear that Lewis-Skelly has done enough to play again before the season ends. He specifically mentioned the West Ham match as a potential opportunity. And the image Bent painted is one of Arteta now having complete confidence that if a Champions League semi-final is not going to plan, he can send Lewis-Skelly on and trust him to make a difference in midfield. That is a powerful position for a manager to be in. Having a 19-year-old who can play multiple positions and perform at a top level in any of them gives Arteta tactical flexibility that very few managers in European football currently enjoy. Atletico Madrid, the test that defines everything. Now let us talk about Tuesday, because the Champions League semi-final second leg against Atletico Madrid is the match that could define this entire season. The situation is that Arsenal are at home, and home advantage matters. The first leg was played at the Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid, and by all accounts, it was an intense and hostile atmosphere. Calafiori spoke about it in terms that made clear how serious that occasion was. Now, the second leg is at the Emirates, and Calafiori made a very pointed comment about home advantage. He said Arsenal must use the fact that they are playing at home. He highlighted the atmosphere against Fulham on Saturday as an example of what the crowd can produce, calling it unbelievable. And he expressed a clear belief that if that same energy fills the Emirates on Tuesday, it will play a significant role in what happens on the pitch. Calafiori described Tuesday as a massive, massive game. He also described it as a huge moment. But what struck me about how he spoke is the controlled and focused nature of his words. He talked about stepping by step, about focusing on what is directly in front of the team. He said he is not even sure whether he will watch Manchester City's match against Everton because his focus is entirely on Atletico. That kind of discipline and mental focus is exactly what you need from your players in the week of a Champions League semi-final. The temptation to look at the league table, to think about the title race, to check what City are doing, that temptation must be resisted. And the evidence from Calafiori's comments suggests that the Arsenal dressing room understands that completely. Arteta himself acknowledged that he will be keeping an eye on the City versus Everton result. But even his manager has made clear that Tuesday's the priority. The league can wait until after Atletico, because there is no point thinking about a Premier League title if you have been knocked out of the Champions League in the semi-finals. The transfer landscape, Godts, Rashford, and the summer ahead. Before I close this analysis, I need to address what is happening in the transfer market, because there are several important developments that Arsenal fans and Manchester United fans both need to understand clearly. Let us start with Mika Godts. He is a 20-year-old Belgian winger currently playing for Ajax in the Netherlands. His numbers this season have been exceptional. 17 goals and 11 assists. For a 20-year-old winger in one of Europe's established leagues, those are remarkable statistics. And naturally, clubs across Europe have taken notice. The situation is that Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester City have all been linked with interest in Godts. His current estimated value stands at around £35 million. That is not an excessive fee for a player with his profile and production level. Now, the significant development is that Barcelona have officially withdrawn from the race. Spanish publication Marca reported that the La Liga giants decided not to pursue Godts because they want someone with considerably more experience. That is a clear indication of Barcelona's priorities heading into the summer. They are not looking for a project player at this moment. They want established quality. For Arsenal and Manchester United, Barcelona's exit removes one of the wealthiest and most attractive clubs from the competition. That could change the dynamics of any potential negotiation for Godts. If two English clubs are competing for the same player at £35 million, the outcome will likely depend on which project appeals more to the player himself. I want to be very clear here. This is at the rumour stage. No deal has been agreed. No transfer has been completed. The links between Godts and both clubs are reported interest, nothing more. But the fact that Barcelona have stepped aside is a confirmed development that changes the landscape around this particular transfer situation. Now let us move to Marcus Rashford, because his situation is directly connected to Barcelona. Rashford is currently on loan at Barcelona from Manchester United. That is confirmed. During his time there, he has played in the left-wing position and recorded 13 goals and 14 assists for the Spanish club this season. Those are strong numbers and they reflect well on the player. Barcelona have an arrangement in place that would allow them to make the loan permanent by paying £26 million. However, the situation is that serious doubts exist over whether Barcelona will activate that option ahead of the summer transfer window. Whether that is connected to financial limitations at the club or simply a matter of priorities is not entirely clear. But the uncertainty is real and confirmed. For Manchester United, this creates a significant decision. If Barcelona do not make the loan permanent, Rashford returns to Old Trafford as a Manchester United player. That then requires the club to make a decision about his future. Do they reintegrate him into the squad under whatever manager takes charge permanently next season? Do they look to sell him elsewhere? These are questions that do not yet have answers, but they are questions United's leadership will need to address. Bruno Fernandes, the captain's declaration. I want to end this analysis by focusing on Bruno Fernandes, because what he said recently is one of the most important statements made by any player at Manchester United in recent memory. The situation is that Fernandes is 31 years old and was the subject of serious interest from Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia last summer. Reports at the time suggested the Saudi club were willing to pay as much as £200 million to secure his services. £200 million. That is an extraordinary figure, and Fernandes turned it down. He has since produced what is broadly regarded as his finest season since joining the club back in 2020. And his most recent public comments make his position absolutely clear. Speaking to Gary Neville, Fernandes explained that he could have left Manchester United multiple times in recent years. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, last season. Each time he chose to stay, and his reason is not simply loyalty for its own sake. He explained that being successful at Manchester United is something he cannot replicate anywhere else in the world. The connection between him and the club, the supporters, the passion, the history. He described himself as being on the same ship as the fans. And he said clearly that until his contract expires, he will keep trying to deliver what the club and the supporters are waiting for. He referenced winning the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. But he was honest about the fact that those trophies are not what the club truly craves. What Manchester United want, what the fans want, and what Fernandes himself wants is the Premier League title. That is what remains unfinished business for him at Old Trafford. He did not say he will definitely stay beyond his current contract. He said he will give everything until that contract ends. That is the statement of a man who is fully committed to the present moment and the mission in front of him. Under interim manager Michael Carrick, Manchester United have been transformed. The club currently sits in third place in the Premier League, having secured Champions League qualification for next season with a 3-2 victory over Liverpool. That result and the position the club now finds itself in gives Fernandes every reason to continue believing that something special can be built here. What I want to leave you with is a clear sense of how extraordinary this moment in football actually is. Arsenal are chasing a league title. They are in a Champions League semi-final. Their key players are returning from injury at exactly the right time. Their squad depth is being proven by a 19-year-old performing at the highest level in a position he has never played before. And every one of their leaders is speaking with the kind of focus and discipline that champions require. Manchester United are rebuilding their identity under Carrick. Their captain has made a declaration of commitment that removes any doubt about where his heart is. They are back in the Champions League for next season. And the summer transfer window will determine whether the momentum they have found under Carrick can be built upon with the right additions. The Mika Godts situation is one to watch. £35 million for a 20-year-old producing those numbers is the kind of deal that can transform a squad. And with Barcelona now out of the picture, the competition for his signature has changed. The evidence suggests that both of these clubs are at genuinely important moments in their recent histories. And the decisions made in the coming weeks, both on and off the pitch, will shape what comes next for both of them. I am Jessica. This is Arsenal Analyst. Stay locked in. The biggest moments are still ahead.